Today in this module, we will discuss about green energy. Green energy is a terminology related to the energy transition. All of us know that the energy is now an integrated part of the modern civilization. In most of our activities, energy is connected in some or other form. But the energy use has simultaneously created lots of adverse effects on the environment, and from that perspective, the green energy concept has evolved. We will discuss in this particular module several aspects, starting from the definition, and then what are the challenges, how we define the green energy, and what are the future prospects, etc. To start the discussion, we are starting the initial how our discussion will follow. First, we will discuss the evolution of energy need and use in human civilization. That means from primitive age, how we learned about the energy use, and then later on, what is the current transformed form. And then associated challenges will be discussed, and then global energy transition. What do we mean by that? That means how our energy use and energy sector is changing with definite objective. Then the definition and the basic features of green energy will be discussed subsequently, because we have to know how the green energy is defined and what are the associated parameters with that. And after that, we will have some discussions on different green energies currently in use. That means in reality, what are the green energies as per the definition, and whether there are some future perspectives of inclusion of new green energies too. And then there are three terminologies at least which apparently looks to be similar, or somebody takes it as a mistake that they are same. These are green energy, clean energy, and sustainable energy. Though there is a very good overlap between these three are not completely identical. So we have to know about the mutual relations and the differences of these three forms of energy terminologies. And then we will have a discussion on the major advantages associated with the green energy, and also with these advantages we have certain challenges too with respect to use of green energy. We will have some discussions on those issues too, because in any real life applications we have certain advantages, but we have to take care of certain challenges that has to be overcome to make it for a long time practice for a better benefit. From these perspectives, this particular module on green energy will be discussed. Now, as you can see that the first picture is showing basically the old primitive people spending their time in the evening in a family. And there you can see the energy implications or indications are quite distinct because the fire is on. And from the primitive people, the process of learning how to ignite fire is considered as the first step of energy use. And from there, the second picture as it shows, that's quite obvious that we are enjoying a modern civilized drawing room in the evening where the family, all the members are doing certain activities that need some energy. The adult people may be looking at the television or working on the laptops. Children are playing certain games. Those are all needing certain energy inputs. So the transformation from the very beginning of lighting the fire up to the modern electricity-based energy devices, there is a rapid transformation. But is it that all these have done good to us? Let's see. Now, so are we confident what I am telling, that the so-called modern people are known to be in a much civilized state? But undoubtedly, we have to make some introspection. In this picture, the first one is the representation of the source of current energy supply, that is a coal-based power plant. Till date, the globally majority of electricity supply is made by coal-based power plants. So obviously we can consider that this is the major source of power supply to the modern civilization. But the second picture is a polar bear is trying to live with his all possible effort on the remaining iceberg. What does it indicate? Is there any relation between these two? Apparently it seems that they are disconnected, but undoubtedly they are strongly connected. We know that the greenhouse gas emission from these power plants has created the global warming, which is melting the Arctic ice, polar ice. And so the natural habitat of this polar bear is getting lost and it is trying to leave. Interestingly, if we consider that the human civilization is for the human being only, and we will not allow the other animals, other living creatures to live anymore, this will be rebound back to the human civilizations and their existence. Most probably nature wants that there must be a equilibrium of all the animals in this Mother Earth. And we forgot about that aspect, and we have tried to create a situation where we will have all our needs and greeds fulfilled, but we will not look into the existence of other creatures. But there lies the actual problem of the present energy crisis. Though our energy usage has increased, though we are living a much better modern life, but still the nature is going to a total destruction where the humans, not only the human civilization, but also the human society as a whole may not be able to survive anymore. How it originated? If we just consider about in the name of civilization, what we have done. We have extracted minerals from the mines, and then we have made the processing of those minerals in associated with other natural resources, and then we have produced certain industrial goods. Undoubtedly, these industrial goods are the backbone of the so-called modern economy. But in the process of delivery of this industrial goods, we have polluted the atmosphere too. And this has not only polluted the atmosphere, but the other spheres like biospheres, the hydrospheres, these have also got affected. So apparently it seems that only those living creatures in those spheres will be affected. But human being also have to be dependent on these. So if we are in this process of industrial revolutions and subsequently industrial growth, we are continuously trying to consume the natural resources for our own purpose through polluting the environment. Now, what is energy transition? Let's explain a little bit. The energy transition means, as we have mentioned, once we learn to ignite the fire, that is the beginning of the fuel energy use for our better living. But after that, conversion of that energy into the mechanical power has initiated that so-called Industry 1.0, which is the first step of industrialization. Later on, it has become more dependent on electricity. So, the conversion of fuel energy into electricity was the major technology requirement. And in that process, fossil fuel based power plant, mostly coal based power plant have evolved. Now, next issue comes the associated pollutions, environmental pollutions from this energy conversion process using fossil fuels. People have now realized that we can have lots of civilization so called and the industrial goods production, but at the cost of environmental damage, which is no doubt tolerable in long range. Now, the energy transition basically is now looking for a final goal of sustainable energy system which actually looks for a permanent solution for a long-term existence with no other adverse effect. But this energy transition cannot happen in a single step. There are certain challenges we have to take care of those, out of which the greatest challenge currently is the transition towards low carbon or no carbon energy sector. And this is called decarbonization of the energy systems. Interestingly, subsequently there may be some more energy transitions where the other issues of sustainable development like economic feasibility and then social acceptability will also be taken care of. So the fast energy transition we can consider to be a part of decarbonization process where this so-called green energy fits very nicely. So what we will do actually, we will try to find out this role of green energy in the energy transition that's called the so-called fast transition. What is green energy? This, as per definition, this green energy is generated from natural sources that are clean, renewable, and have minimal or no negative impact on the environment. Interestingly, this terminology is made out of the effects observed in the surroundings. So, the green energy major objective is to protect the environment, and the greatest effect of the environmental damage apart from the other pollutions is the climate change. So, the major objective of the green energy is to take care of the climate change. And undoubtedly, any fossil fuel based energy use will lead to greenhouse gas emission, and we have to come out of those. And also, there is another problem because a limited resource of these fossil fuels will not allow this particular energy conversion and utilization methodology to be a permanent solution. So, both from resource depletion perspective and from the environmental protection, we need to generate or evolve new energy systems called green energy. So, the major objective, if we consider for this particular initiative of green energy, is the environmental protection, whether not diminishing the energy use at all for our so-called civilization. So, when we are trying to find out these options for the green energy, which will be definitely environment friendly options, the options available are found to be renewable options immediately available. For example, when we consider the solar radiation, that is a part of the natural process. Every day in the morning we get the sunrise and the solar radiation automatically comes to the earth, and in no way it affects the environment. So, if we can use the renewable energy which are clean and does not create any additional environmental pollution, these may be considered as the readily available green energy options. But is it that only renewable energies are green energy? That may be a question again. But remember, that the original definition of the green energy is the energy which does not or has very little effect on the environment. So we will try to match this particular basic definition of green energy into the available options. The different green energies currently in use, that means according to the currently used available options, we have mostly available renewable energies are considered as the green energy. Solar energy is the example which has got substantial potential. And all of us know that all over the world, solar energy is becoming very popular, and installation of solar power is now a mission of almost all the countries of the world according to their possible other options and restrictions. But though it's a green energy, that means the least possible environmental impact is there, we know that there are certain challenges associated with it also. For example, solar energy means it's intermittent. That means with the variation of the weather, we will have lesser or more solar radiation received. Subsequently, with the seasonal variations also, we will have the solar energy radiations received differently. It's a dilute form of energy, means the energy density of solar energy is not that concentrated like fossil fuel based power, and uncertainty always hangs over the solar energy use. Then another very well known green energy form is another renewable energy, wind energy. In wind energy, interestingly, it's very clean, and many of the countries has given major priority on wind energies too. But remember that we have to have that wind available in that particular location to install the wind energy. Unlike solar energy, wind energy is not available everywhere. So the plant installation has to be decided accordingly where assured wind energy supply will be there. Another important issue with the related to wind energy is that it may affect the visual impact and even noise pollution and wildlife interactions. That means the specifically birds and bats, they may get affected due to large wind wheels or wind turbines rotating. So the installation location must be properly chosen so that we will have least impact for the wind energy as a green energy. Hydropower is another renewable energy which is considered to be a very useful green energy. Hydropower, it has got two forms. One form is large hydropower, where we create a water reservoir where large amount of water is stored, and then subsequently, as per requirement, we use the potential energy head of that stored water at an elevated location for the electricity generation. But in this sort of hydropower, which is specifically the large scale hydropower, we have the limitations of evacuating the local people, and the local ecosystems get affected due to the large artificially made reservoir. So in some way, the large scale hydropower has got certain limitations with respect to the green energy concept, though it is absolutely renewable. On the other hand, the small micro hydro plants, where the river as it flows naturally, especially in the hilly area, has always certain kinetic energy. And if we can put turbines into the river flow, automatically the electricity can be generated without artificially storing and creating the environmental impact. So the small scale and run-off river hydropower is considered to be a perfect green energy option. Then the geothermal energy is purely a earth-owned renewable energy. It's the heat from the crust of the earth where the heat can be utilized for steam-based power generation. This is another absolutely clean energy, but the problem of this geothermal is everywhere it is not available, number one, and number two, it is investment intensive. Means to start the geothermal power, initially we have to invest a lot of money. Then the biomass based energy can also be considered as a clean energy subject to certain conditions if we can use the biomass based energy with proper planning so that the logistics and other issues will not affect the environment. For example, if the trees are cut down mercilessly or rather without any proper planning, then automatically as it will affect the environment. So the biomass supply must be such so that it does not affect the environment, then only it can be considered as a green energy option. So the biomass based energy is another renewable and simultaneously green energy if and only if it has certain proper planning and logistics in the use of it. Now we are having little bit comments or discussions on the green energy and the clean energy. There are substantial overlap between these two. But remember that all green energies are not necessarily included in the clean energy. Clean energy is that energy which have no emissions during operation, but one example we can discuss in this regard is the nuclear power. All of us know that there are substantial potential of nuclear power generation for the future use. But unfortunately, the hazards created due to the nuclear waste or any possible accidents hinders the acceptance of the people as a nuclear energy a viable option. So, though nuclear energy during normal operation or during without any accidental case, it's a perfectly clean energy, we cannot consider to be a green energy. And another issue with respect to the hydropower, we have already discussed that hydropower is in a small scale can be considered as a green energy, but large scale hydropower where the associated reservoir making will affect the environment may not be considered as a green energy option. Now, the green energy versus sustainable energy can be another issue of discussion. What is sustainable energy is the term sustainable development originated from the Brundtland Commissions of the United Nations, where that can fulfill our needs but also does not affect the needs of the future generation. And in this perspective, the sustainable energy has been considered those energy that will fulfill the need of the present but will preserve for the future, not to be affected in the future generation. So, the sustainable options will have to satisfy at least 3 different conditions simultaneously. It has to be environmentally benign, which is also the objective of green energy, economically feasible, and finally socially acceptable. But green energy specifically doesn't consider the social issues and the economic aspect. It only considers the successful environmentally benign energy options. Now, in sustainable energy concept, there are certain context-specific issues. For example, a single solution cannot be a sustainable energy solution for any part of the world. It has to be economically friendly for some of the poor countries, and that have to have with a higher priority. Then finally, I am just discussing about the major advantages of green energy. Under that section, it undoubtedly provides the most important advantage of protecting the environment. Subsequently, better energy security is also provided by the green energy because it does not depend on any fuel. It is depending on the natural resources. Socially inclusive also are these green energies because these energies create option or opportunities for local employment too. The major challenges of the green energy are cost effectiveness, because unless it is cost effective, we cannot just tell that that will be acceptable in the society. With the most of the green energies are renewable energies and they are intermittent, like solar, wind, etc. In those cases, the problem is unless the existing grid with the fossil fuel based powers is not modified, then the grid integrations of this variable power generation may be another problem. Still, these are not suitable for large scale power generation mostly, but green energy is our only future. We need further innovations for technology development related to green energy to be more practically used for our societal benefit. And then finally, we need the policy support for this green energy development. And then here, till date, renewable energies are mostly included in the green energy, but one of the possible or visible green energy may be hydrogen based energy. And if that hydrogen can be naturally produced from the renewable resources without affecting the environment, then undoubtedly this will be the future green energy with maximum potential, because hydrogen is the cleanest fuel with nothing other than producing water after the energy generation, which is completely benign for the environment. Thank you.